1800 hours, Pakistan Standard Time. Assalamu alaikum. This is Radio Pakistan, the news read by Ali Ahmed. First, the headlines. Eid al-Azha is being celebrated today across the country with religious fervor to commemorate the great sacrifice of Hazrat Ibrahim and Hazrat Ismail alayhis salam. Foreign Minister says Yawm-e-Istisal will be observed on Wednesday across the country to give a clear message to oppressed people in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir that they are not alone in their struggle of freedom. Visiting troops along the line of control today, the Army Chief said, "We reiterate our pledge to always stand by our Kashmiri brethren, braving Indian atrocities for their right of self-determination." In Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, Indian troops in their continued acts of state terrorism martyred 24 Kashmiris in July. Slovakia has assured Pakistan of full cooperation and support at United Nations Economic and Social Council and in peace-building efforts. United Arab Emirates has announced startup of its Barakah nuclear power plant. And now the news in detail. Eid al-Azha is being celebrated today across the country with religious fervor to commemorate the great sacrifice of Hazrat Ibrahim and Hazrat Ismail alayhis salam. The day dawned with special prayers in mosques for progress, prosperity and security of the country. Eid congregations were held at mosques, Eidgahs and open places in all cities, towns and villages across the country. Ulema in their khutbah of Eid highlighted the significance of the philosophy of great sacrifice offered by Hazrat Ibrahim and Hazrat Ismail alayhis salam. Special prayers were also held for the oppressed people of Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir who are facing unprecedented Indian brutalities. People are offering sacrifice of animals to follow the sunnah of Hazrat Ibrahim alayhis salam. President Dr. Arif Alvi and the Prime Minister Imran Khan in their separate messages of Eid have urged the people to take care of the needy people, particularly in the situation of coronavirus pandemic. In his message, the President said the pandemic has taken a heavy toll on the world economically, with even the powerful governments struggling to provide relief to the people. In his message, Prime Minister Imran Khan said the day is a reminder to reiterate resolve for facing all the problems with strong determination and without evading greater sacrifices in its way. He appeals the people to observe all the standard operating procedures while sacrificing animals, besides taking special care for the needy and poor on the occasion. Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi has urged the nation to keep guard against the highly infectious pathogen by following the standard operating procedures. In his message on Eid al-Azha, felicitated the nation on the auspicious occasion and said they would have to defeat the COVID-19 pandemic with collective responsibility as it posed a great challenge on the Eid. Shah Mahmood Qureshi observed that in the upcoming Muharram al-Haram, they should also strictly abide by the SOPs. Shah Mahmood Qureshi observed that he expressed that hope that the nation would emerge successful from the challenge of coronavirus. Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi says Pakistan will give a befitting response to any Indian misadventure along the line of control. Talking to media persons in Multan today, he said Modi-led fascist government in India is preparing to begin construction work on Ram Mandir in Ayodhya and Pakistan condemns this act. The foreign minister said that Yawm-e-Istisal will be observed on Wednesday across the country to give a clear message to oppressed people in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir that they are not alone. He said that Pakistan will continue to extend moral, political and diplomatic support to the Kashmiri people in their just struggle for freedom and right to self-determination. He said that mosques have been closed in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir and entire political leadership of Kashmir has been detained. Chief of the Army Staff General Qamar Javed Bajwa says Pakistan Army is fully prepared and capable of thwarting any misadventure for defense of the motherland. He stated this during his visit and interaction with troops deployed on front lines along the line of control in Quirata sector today. The Chief of Army Staff spent time with troops on Eid Day, commended their high morale, operational readiness and continuous vigil being maintained along the line of control. He said, "Let us also reiterate our pledge to always stand by our Kashmiri brethren, braving Indian atrocities for their right of self-determination despite all odds." The Army Chief said that we are aware of the enemy's design to destabilize our country and this region. This is Radio Pakistan. Permanent representative of Slovakia to the United Nations, Michael Maliner, called on Pakistan's ambassador Munir Akram in New York and discussed bilateral ties besides cooperation at international fora. He congratulated Munir Akram for assuming presidency of United Nations Economic and Social Council. Both ambassadors underlined the need for more important role of ECOSOC in this scenario of COVID-19 and efforts to achieve sustainable development goals. Slovakian ambassador showed full support and cooperation in peace-building efforts of Pakistan at the United Nations and stressed on strong bilateral ties. In occupied Kashmir, Eid al-Azha turned out to be a highly subdued event and a dull affair as roads for a deserted Taluk and major mosques and shrines remained closed amidst strict restrictions imposed by the authorities across the length and breadth of the territory. According to Kashmir Media Service, except for heavily armed Indian troops and police personnel dotting roads, markets and sensitive installations, as well as barricades and concertina wires being placed at many intersections, the Srinagar city and other major towns of the territory were shut for the general masses. On the other hand, Indian troops in their continued acts of state terrorism martyred 24 Kashmiris during the last month of July in Indian illegally occupied Kashmir. The authorities in occupied Kashmir have granted over 4 lakh domicile certificates in a little over a month in the territory. Common Kashmiris widely believe that majority of these certificates might have been issued to non-local Hindus. In India, the Concerned Citizens group led by former Indian minister and BJP leader Yashwant Sinha has urged the Modi government to immediately release all Kashmiri political detainees arrested over Draconian Public Safety Act. In a statement, the group also called for restoration of 4G communication as well as lifting the curbs on all peaceful political activity in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. The CCG also pointed out that the Kashmiris seem to believe that the Indian government wants to marginalize them. The United Arab Emirates has announced the startup of its Barakah nuclear power plant, a first for the Arab world. The country's representative to the International Atomic Energy Agency, Hamad Al-Kabi, in a tweet, said this is a historic milestone with a vision to deliver a new form of clean energy for the nation. The United Arab Emirates Premier and ruler of Dubai, Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, tweeted that work at Barakah has succeeded in loading nuclear fuel packages, carrying out comprehensive tests and successfully completing the operation. In Afghanistan, 16 people, including children, have been killed as flash floods washed away several houses in Kuskonar district of Nangarhar province. 4 other children went missing due to the flooding. And finally, the weather report. Mainly hot and humid weather is expected in most parts of the country during the next 12 hours. However, rain, wind, thunder showers are expected in Upper Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Upper Central Punjab, Islamabad, Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan. Isolated rain thunderstorm is also expected in eastern Balochistan. To end the news, once again the headlines. Eid al-Azha is being celebrated today across the country with religious fervor to commemorate the great sacrifice of Hazrat Ibrahim and Hazrat Ismail alayhis salam. Foreign Minister says Yom Istisal will be observed on Wednesday across the country to give a clear message to oppressed people in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir that they are not alone in their struggle for freedom. Visiting the troops along the line of control today, the Army Chief said, "We reiterate our pledge to stand always by our Kashmiri brethren, braving Indian atrocities for the right of self-determination." In Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, Indian troops in their continued acts of state terrorism martyred 24 Kashmiris in July. And that is the end of the news. For more news and analysis, log on to our website radio.gov.pk. And for the live video streaming of our bulletins, visit the link facebook.com/Radio Pakistan News Official.